Hello, and welcome back to Pete's Behavioral Insights and Theories, aka Pete's Bits. This video is part 2 of my 300 subscriber special with Dr. Elizabeth Loftus. If you haven't yet seen part 1, there'll be a link right here which you can click to go watch part 1. I do recommend that you go watch part 1 first. But in this video, we're talking about how your memories guide your future behaviors, and hence how your false memories can also guide your future behaviors. It's a pretty interesting and I think under-discussed topic in behavioral science, so I hope you enjoy. But before I show you the interview, can I please remind you to hit that subscribe button down below and ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on all of my future uploads. Alright, thank you for tuning in, and on with the video. My channel is mainly focused on behavior change and what we can do to improve our lives and engage in more positive behaviors. I know that some of your more recent work is about how we can use false memories to change our food preferences and stuff. So can you talk about your work around that?
Yes. Well, actually, I got interested in the question along with a postdoc I had then, Dan Bernstein, and a couple of graduate students, Carol Laney, Aaron Morris, and we got very interested in this question. If I plant a false memory, let's say in your mind, Peter, does it have repercussions? Does it affect your later thoughts, your later intentions, your later behavior? And we sat down and tried to figure out how should we study this, the repercussions of a false memory. And we decided, why don't we try to plant a false memory that you got sick as a child eating a particular food? And maybe people won't want to eat that food as much. And we would be able to demonstrate the ripple effects of the false memory. Because sometimes when people get sick on a particular food, they develop taste aversions and they don't want the food anymore. Yep. Maybe we could plant a false memory that you got sick and you would then avoid the food. And that's what we did. We planted a false memory. You got sick on eggs, or for some subjects, you got sick on pickles, for others, or you got sick on strawberry ice cream. And we found that people weren't as interested in eating those foods. And we were really pretty excited about this result. I mean, I was thinking maybe we are on the brink of a new dieting technique here. We did the opposite. We planted a warm, fuzzy childhood memory about a healthy food, asparagus, and people want to eat it more. So now it looks as if we can plant false memories and affect people's nutritional choices, maybe make a dent in the obesity problem in our society. But how to implement this, out there in the real world is still a bit tricky, because therapists are not supposed to deceive their patients, even if it's for their own good. So there may be a little ethical issue there with, some therapists trying to help out an overweight or obese patient or client. But at some point, I mused that there's nothing to stop a parent from doing this with their own overweight or obese child, teenager. And then I got a little backlash for even having that thought. That people were saying, oh my God, there she goes again. She's advocating that parents lie to their children. And of course, my response to that was, hello, Santa Claus. I mean, have been lying to kids one way or another for years, and don't seem to mind doing it when it seems to serve some purpose. So anyhow, that's the gist of that line of work. We also did it with alcohol. If I make you believe you got sick on a vodka drink, you're not as interested in drinking a vodka drink.
It's so interesting. And I think one of the issues in behavioral intervention is that a lot of the time the results are very short term. Like it works for a couple of weeks and then maybe it goes away. How long lasting are these memory effects? Do you know?
I'll just mention one study that was done by Alan Scaboria and his colleagues, where they planted a false memory in the minds of ordinary healthy subjects that they got sick eating peach yogurt. A month later, they didn't eat as much peach yogurt when they were given an opportunity to choose what foods they were going to eat. So I think his work impressively shows that this kind of intervention can last for a while.
In social psychology, we know that there's something called like a negativity bias, where we tend to attenuate to negative information more strongly than positive information. Is there a negativity bias in like false memories? And so how do the effects compare from when you show someone, if you plant the memory that they dislike the food versus they like the food, is it stronger for the disliked food?
I have to say no. Now, there's not been a great deal of work on this, but one very carefully, nicely done study by one of my former PhDs, Sherry Berkowitz, did plan a false memory that you had a very positive experience with certain characters at Disneyland, or a negative experience with you were squeezed by these Disney characters in a way that was lovable, the positive, or made you very uncomfortable and was icky, the negative. And she found that she was more successful in getting people to buy the positive false memory than the negative one. So that's one example that's sort of the opposite of what you're describing in a different domain as a negativity bias.
Those are all of my main questions for you today. I had just one more, which is that I know that you have a PhD in mathematical psychology from Stanford, and that you are the only woman in your entire cohort. And of course, since then you've had this like amazing career that we've talked about just today. I'm always someone who wants to swing the sword of equality for everyone. So do you have any words of encouragement for like young female psychologists who might be watching this video?
Okay. Well, let's see. When I give advice to people, it really depends on where they are in their process. And so, for example, for an undergraduate student who's trying to think about where to go to graduate school, my advice for that person is, find some place where people are doing some work that you're, kind of interested in. But another thing to look for is you want productive faculty, you want faculty that are publishing, and you want faculty that are publishing, ideally, articles with student co-authors. Because when you get into graduate school, you want those publication opportunities, because that's what's going to help you get a good job after you're done with graduate school. So that, that's a very specific piece of advice for somebody who's thinking of going on for advanced study. And my advice for people who maybe aren't is to really appreciate the skills that studying psychology gives you. I mean, just studying psychology that teaches you about research methods and how a good study is done, and what it means to have a control group, and what it means to do proper statistical analyses and proper inferences from what you're finding. This is going to help you out there in the real world when you're hearing claims that other people make. And it should inspire you to ask, well, what exactly is the evidence for that claim? And I don't want you to just tell me there are 3 studies. I want to know exactly what are those studies? And did they have a control group? And what kind of statistical analysis did they do? And did they have enough subjects? So I think that the study of psychology, leaves people who even don't go into it as a career with a gift that they can spend for the rest of their life.
Hey, so that was my interview with Dr. Loftus. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you want to find out more about Dr. Loftus's work, I'll have some links in the description to her books as well as her TED Talk, which is definitely worth watching. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more videos on human memory. I definitely have more to talk about. Next week we're going to be talking about messenger effects, how who says what is sometimes more important than what is said. So if you want to hear about messenger effects next week, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on next week's video. Alright, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.